I love movies and movies love me. Don't question it. Animated films never fail to entertain me. Back then and now, there were two films in particular that I could watch again and again as a kid. The first one is Madagascar, which I have on DVD. But we're not talking about Madagascar today, so you can forget that one. And the second is Hoodwinked. This one I've seen a semi-unhealthy amount. As a matter of fact, this was one of the first movies that turned me into a pirate. Hoodwinked might be one of the most underrated anime films out there. And what better way to show it love than by going through it from start to finish. We open up with Little Red Riding Hood entering the house looking for her grandmother. But Granny's looking a bit different. She moves in for a better look and hits the famous lines. Oh Granny, what big hands you have. Granny, what big eyes you have. Ugh, Granny, your breath is smelling crazy. And just like that, the jig is up. The big bad wolf hops out the bed and gets tooled up. Little Red heads for the door but gets cut off. Wolfie lunges in and grabs her arm. But then the real Granny appears from out of nowhere. And then... And so the movie begins. For those of you who have never seen this film before, I would like to be the first to say, you're the scum of the earth. Respectfully, Hoodwinked is a whodunit film where 4 suspects take it in turns to share their stories of how they all ended up in this predicament. The feds are investigating these 4 because they believe there is a connection between these guys and the infamous Goody Bandito, a notorious crook who has been stealing recipes from businesses all over the woods, forcing them to shut down. And the one who's leading the interrogation is none other than the man himself, Nicky Flippers. Emerging from the shadows, I can feel the aura through the screen. The first one to tell their side of things is Little Red Riding Hood, and her day began like any other, delivering goodies all over the forest for her granny's goodie shop. We get introduced to another character called Boingo, a bunny that used to work for the Muffin Man, but he too was also a victim of the Goody Bandit. The Muffin Man has always been an enigma to me because who is he? Red calls Grandma Pocket and suggests bringing the recipe book to her crib so that it doesn't get swiped. But her grandma dismisses that suggestion swiftly. And Red was low-key onto something with that idea because it wasn't long after the phone call that someone vandalized her grandma's shop. She steps inside and finds a rock which says, "You're next." She decides to take matters into her own hands and sets off on a perilous journey to Granny's crib with a recipe book. She takes a cable car with Boingo, who runs it, and heads up the mountain. But then all of a sudden, the doors just fly open. See, I told you, perilous. And Boingo is moving hella sus, you know, because why is he grabbing the basket and not her? And why is his face like that? Red falls down the trees and ends up taking 0 fall damage. Plot armor was working overtime. She gets up from the ground and notices a large footprint. And there's only one person that this could belong to, the big bad wolf, aka Fake Granny. They share a 1-2 dialogue before he releases the and just like that, she's gone like the wind. But Wolfie has instant transmission and reappears in front of her. A little bit of wolf spray and now he's legally blind. She comes up with a 1000 IQ play and sends the wolf downstream before continuing her journey up the mountain. A little side quest comes up and she comes across a singing goat. And I'm not talking about MJ. Red hits up her granny's line one more time, but this time, it sounded like she was in distress. She tells the singing goat that she needs to get to a pocket grove. The goat rises up a ditty about horns and being prepared, whatever that means, before dropping them down into the mine shaft and riding the mine cart around the mountain. I don't hate heights personally, but I'm not the biggest fan of them either. However, this does look fun and safe. Okay, it was safe until the avalanche happened. The duo end up taking flight and soar above the clouds. Red catches her grandma's voice coming from the heavens telling her to use the hood. But what if she didn't have the hood? It would have been R.I.P. Red takes flight all the way to Granny's house and now we've come back to where we started. Oh Granny, big hands, big ears, bad breath, yada yada yada. Grizzly Bear was ready to book the big bad wolf, but there isn't a shred of evidence to convict him of anything. So instead they call the wolf up to hear his perspective. And given that he's a reporter, he's adamant that he's got the real story. For the past 6 months he's been undercover, investigating the so-called Goody Bandit, finding all that he could to build a profile and uncover the identity of the mysterious man. Big Bad catches Red on the move and speculates if she is in cahoots with the bandit. Oh yeah, and this is Twitchy by the way, just thought you guys should know. He's more or less Wolfie's partner in crime. Twitchy and Wolf try to get the word on the streets about who Little Red is moving food for. He swings the CI a 20 sheet and he starts singing. I don't know what he's gonna do with $20 though, these guys live in the woods. After linking the informant, they spot Red falling from the cable car, and the exact same sequence of events unfold here. Footprint, eyes. The only difference is that we see why the growl happened. They tried to catch her on foot, but that was never going to work. So Big Bad decides to call for a taxi in the middle of nowhere and actually comes. He zooms past and tells the driver to stop. He hops out of the yellow cab only to get sprayed and slapped up. He did not know that she was part of Miyagi-Do. Another chase ensues, but you already know what happens here.
Not cool.
Twitchy and Wolfie reconvene and cook up another plan. They decide to head over to Granny Pocket's house before Red Riding does. Boingo then spawns out of nowhere saying he knows a shortcut apparently, but that brother did not know a shortcut because now they're in some dark cave with a foreign entity behind them.
Run.
After running for their lives, they stumble across a ladder which coincidentally puts them onto the railway. The two of them are cruising, enjoying the ride, but then Twitchy lights up a stick of dynamite. These bozos end up dropping the stick and light up the rest. Now they're throwing everything out, blowing up the entire roller coaster. I get why the track was incomplete now. They put up to Granny's first and let themselves in. The big bad wolf was trying to get into character, but they heard a knock on the door and got shook. There was no time to perfect the role. Twitchy gets thrown in the closet and he hops into their bed. And that's where his story ended. Twitchy had pictures backing up everything he said, so they were clear of any suspicion. Nicky tells the woodsman to rise up and give his point of view, but this guy's entire day was pure vibes, like he knew absolutely nothing. His day started off with an audition for Bunion Cream. Unfortunately, he didn't get the part. I don't know if it was down to bad acting or the fact that humans put the director in a casket. After failing the audition, he goes back to his day job, which consists of him giving out meat to little kids. Wait, hold on. But on another note, don't you think these kids look a little, I don't know, tapped? After frolicking with the kiddies, he comes back to the truck, only to find that someone done took everything, including the wheels, and he wasn't even gone for long. Boingo spawns out of nowhere, yet again. This guy is so sus. He tries to reassure Kirk by saying,
maybe someday somebody will open up a great big goodie shop and we can all work for that little guy.
Interesting. Kirk's phone starts ringing and it's the director on the line. This brother actually got a callback. He starts method acting to prepare for the role that the director proposed. Bear in mind, he's doing all this for a Bunion ad. Everybody's gotta have dreams, I guess. Later that day, Kirk hears a scream coming from Granny's house and his focus gets shifted. He turned away for 1 second and the tree collapsed. Now he's doing up tempo run to save his life. He soars through the air and hits a front somersault as he breaks into the house. Naturally, everyone's screaming in unison after seeing a madman fly into the yard, and that's all the woodsman had to offer. It's now Granny's turn to spill the beans. But before she even began speaking, one of the feds found her secret stash of extreme sports trophies. Granny's even got a tattoo on her neck. I didn't know she was about that life. She tells everyone that she's in down with knitting and bingo. She would rather live life to the extreme. And her life is extreme, alright. Because why is she jumping out of a helicopter? Granny's life is more exciting than mine. Respect. Remember the first call that Red made? Her grandma hung up prematurely so that she can make it to the slopes on time. She says wagwan to the mandem and they eat snickerdoodles. Boingo reappears yet again just before the race. You've probably figured it out by now. We also got a batch of nefarious looking Europeans over here as well. Not him though, I would slap him up any day. All the contestants pull up to the start line and lock in for the race ahead. The big guy pulls up next to Granny with his terrible trim. I mean, he is literally twinning with Bart Simpson. The race starts and he breaks the lock on Pocket's ski. He then starts mixing up with this, I don't know what animal this is, but she eventually snowballs. It wasn't long before the slope turned into utter chaos. The ugly Europeans were just terrorizing anyone that was in their island. They were not here on a friendly thing. This is right about the point where Red hit up Granny's trap line the second time, but she was too busy dealing with her ops to engage in conversation. Granny turns up the heat and avenges her fallen comrades. Never let Granny Pocket say a whap because it will get long. Pocket and the big guy grapple each other and spin out all the way to the cliff edge. Granny's asking who sent them here and he says the bandit, and those were the last words she ever heard. Psych! She survived the fall and bungees herself back up the mountain. She then pulls out C4 and starts an avalanche. What kind of inventory is she rolling around with? She shreds some snow for a bit, zooms past the villains and grabs the trophy that was rightfully hers. She releases her parachute and heads to the skies to avoid the avalanche. Whilst soaring through the clouds, she comes across Red and the singing goat, and the plots start to converge at this point. Red uses the hood, Twitchy and Wolf enter the house and she comes through the chimney. But her parachute gets caught by the fan and spins her into the closet. She eventually breaks free and catches Wolf and Little Red confronting each other, and now everything has come back full circle. Red tells her grandmother that she's been deceived, hoodwinked, bamboozled. She goes on a long sad stroll through the woods to clear her head and take in everything she just uncovered about her grandma. We even get a little flashback where we see them talking about the family history and how they've been making mouth-watering treats since the dawn of time. Red Riding did come across something from her grandma's double life, but she got told not to pay any mind. We cut back to the house where we are looking through the eyes of our unknown character. They grabbed the basket and dipped. Flippers was breaking down all the stories until he realized midway that Red was missing. She never came back from her late night stroll because she was too busy catching the goody bandit. The feds leave the crib to go find the bunny whilst the rest of the gang formulate a plan to stop the villains. Twitchy takes a swig of coffee and uses his newfound energy to head down the mountain and stall the police. Meanwhile, Boingo and the gang hop out the cable car and enter the base of operations. But they were not aware that Red hitched a ride on the back of the cable car. She made her presence known to Boingo and it was on sight. Boingo must have defense on max level because Red could not get a single hit in no matter what she did. He spins out for no reason and they start round 2. A couple more kicks that do 0 damage and now she's tasting the concrete. Red switches from Miyagi-Do to Cobra Kai and goes in with a fist, but Boingo showed her what no mercy really looked like and broke through her block with a 2-footed kick. Now she's crying on the floor like a little girl. Boingo then uses the power of song and dance to explain his evil plan to Red Riding Hood. Phase 1, steal all the recipes. Phase 2, put crack in the goodies. Phase 3, blow up the woods so that he can build his empire. Phase 3B, pack off Little Red. Boingo really had everyone fooled. One might even say,
You've been hoodwinked, baby.
the song was catchy, but the choreo was dreadful. I mean, like, what is this? Do they even want to be here? The rest of the team were watching the whole thing unfold behind some rocks. Granny was speaking a bit too loud and the gang gets made by the ugliest man alive. They take him out together and put their makeshift plan into action. Their plan was to get Kirk to impersonate the European brother. And given his non-existent acting skills, this was a terrible idea because he started talking about bunion creams all of a sudden. The wolf had to step in because he was going to blow the cover sky high. Granny was scaling the building whilst Wolfie had Boingo distracted, but it wasn't long before her cover was blown by a drop of sweat falling from her nose. She says F the plan and goes off script. The big bad wolf tried to handle Boingo, but he got touched. Granny hits Baldy with a substitution duty and clobbers him on the noggin before making short work of these two bums. Boingo was itching for a body because he was trying to send Red to the Shadow Realm expeditiously. Granny grabs a baking tray and hits Boingo with a drive-by. She ditches the bike and slides down the cable line with the ops following suit. Red manages to break free from the ropes they tied her in and gets to the outside of the car. Granny pulls up in the nick of time and tells Red to grab the hood. She swings her over the car and lands on the back of the tray. Grandma Pocket releases the bomb that is the cable car and it drops into the water. Boingo was not capping, he was really going to put the whole forest in a spliff. The villains were gaining on Granny and Red, but they take to the skies one last time and escape them with ease. The ops slide into the police van as a collective and they get taken away to the slammer. If you're wondering how this happened, it's because one of the feds spotted them from the ground earlier on. The film ends with Nicky Flippers asking the team to join his organization and work for him to fight bad guys. And that's how we ended up with Hoodwinked 2. I have never watched it and I never will. Thank you guys for watching, and as usual, that's all she wrote.
語れない眠れないとろい目